Today I'm going to talk to you about something I'm a little bit passionate about, and that is the manual transmission. And more specifically, why your next vehicle purchase should be a manual transmission vehicle. So there's a lot of controversy, and there always has been, on whether or not automatic is better than manual or manual is better than automatic. And it all comes down to personal preference, but in my opinion, I enjoy driving a manual transmission vehicle better than an automatic transmission vehicle for a bunch of different reasons, which I'm going to get into that today. So today I'm going to get into why your next vehicle purchase should be a manual vehicle. So number 5 is going to be price of the vehicle. If you're buying a vehicle new, 99% of the time the automatic transmission is considered an option, and it will cost more than the manual transmission version of that vehicle. And I'm not just talking a couple dollars difference. Oftentimes it's $1,500, $2,000 for the automatic transmission as an option, which is completely astounding if you consider the Subaru WRX, the manual transmission in those, they're incredible, but then you pay $1,500 to get the CVT, which is, in my opinion, one of the worst feeling transmissions ever made. So my number 4 reason is going to be the maintenance on a manual versus an automatic. Typically, the maintenance is a lot simpler on a manual vehicle than an automatic. Changing out like a clutch in a manual vehicle is a lot simpler than doing any sort of work on a torque converter in an automatic vehicle. Not to mention, a manual vehicle doesn't have the viscous fluid around the clutch like how an automatic has viscous fluid around the torque converter. So arguably maintenance is a little bit simpler on a manual vehicle, and on a manual vehicle, manual transmissions tend to be a lot more reliable than their automatic counterparts. So while we're talking about torque converters and viscous fluid, that takes us to our number 3 reason why, and that would be powertrain loss, both in the form of horsepower and in miles per gallon. The clutch system in a manual transmission car is a lot more efficient than the torque converter in an automatic, because in a manual car, the clutch is a mechanical form of mating up the transmission and the power generated by the engine, when in an automatic, the torque converter is in fluid, so you lose some power to heat in the viscous fluid in the surrounding the torque converter, since they aren't mated up in the same fashion that the clutch is. So instead of relying on a mechanical lock like in the manual, you're relying on the power being generated by the fluid in an automatic. So you're going to lose power because of this. That's unavoidable. But also you're going to lose considerable miles per gallon when you're talking about fuel efficiency. And you would think this would be compensated because, like the vehicle I'm driving right now, it's a 6-speed manual. There's 10-speed automatics out there, like in the Ford Mustang. But still, if you compare the miles per gallon between the manual and the automatic, you'll see that they're usually pretty similar. But if one of them is going to have worse miles per gallon, it's going to be the automatic. And that brings us to my number 2 reason. This one pretty much only applies to people that enjoy modifying their vehicles, such as myself, and that is the ability to hold power. Usually, not always, but 9 times out of 10, automakers, they build the automatics weaker than the manuals. Usually with a manual vehicle, you just swap out the clutch and you're good to go for as much as you want, but automatics, you can't really do that. So you got to replace the transmission with something beefier, which I don't know if you guys know, a clutch is a lot cheaper than a transmission. And of course, the number one reason is going to be user engagement. It is a lot more fun to drive a manual vehicle. It's a lot more rewarding. You nail that rev match downshift perfectly, and it's rewarding. An automatic does the same thing, but it's all computerized. Driving an automatic really requires no skill, but when you're driving a manual, there's a learning curve, and there's tricks to pick up on, such as rev match downshifts, or heel toe, or even uphill starts. Those are all completely automated in an automatic. But when you're driving a manual, you have to think about it, and you have to have the gas to clutch ratio perfect, and it's rewarding when you do something perfectly. And then, you know, you do it in an automatic, it just does it by itself. There's no thinking involved. And not to mention, not just the fun factor of driving a manual, it's also that you can tell the car exactly what to do. You can control the clutch slip. Something that annoys me every time I drive an automatic, and I sold my first car was an automatic, and I sold it because it wasn't a manual, is that when you want to lay into the power or get up a hill or something, it doesn't know where to shift. And yeah, you could put it into manual mode if your car has that, but there's always going to be a little bit of latency. Like, yeah, you can give it user input and it'll shift half a second later, but a manual, you just shift it and it just immediately shifts. And then there's always the people that are going to give you the argument where, oh, it's an automatic, I could put it in a manual mode when I want to. Well, why are you pretending to be a manual? If you're so adamant about having an automatic, why not just always have it into automatic mode if you enjoy driving automatic so much more? It doesn't make any sense to me. Not to mention the people that are like, oh, my automatic, it shifts 1/100th of a second faster than your manual, and my quarter-mile time is 1/1000th of a second faster than your manuals. Well, I didn't know that everybody that bought a car, their sole reason for buying it was drag racing and going for that perfect time. Like, that argument never made any sense to me. But yeah, I'm not going to get into it too much today. Just a short little video to hold you guys over while I have some bigger stuff in the works. I hope you all enjoyed. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, and subscribe for some more upcoming content that you guys aren't going to want to miss. I will see you all next time.